Welcome to a very special episode of Internet Dads. On some level, this is Internet Mums. Welcome to Alex Spencer's significant other.
Very significant. Very significant.
Mate, this is huge. An honour. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you for having me.
And have you been watching?
Yes. I've been listening to every word. I've been taking notes.
Yes, you have been. She literally has been telling me after each episode, right, this has gone on my little list here. And we were talking about, because obviously we've done a lot of YouTube in the past, Alex and I. Still got our channel, so semi-dormant. But I think the last video we might have done together may have been the baby name.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I've kind of been in retirement.
Yeah, semi-retirement.
Living the life.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's how is it? Are you,
It's great. I'm not going to lie. I love being a mum of two.
do you?
Yeah.
More than being mum of one?
Yes. Well, it's different, but yes, because there's more love. There's more times where you can turn around and say to each other, like, you never guess what
I know.
they did today. Well, less so the baby.
Yeah.
Imagine if you said no, by the way. I actually prefer one.
Yeah, no, pretty
Go
right,
back.
No,
Trick question.
No, the reason why I hesitated with that is because sometimes I do miss having the one-on-one time with the eldest.
Yeah.
And so when I do get that now, I really treasure it.
Mm.
And so I do miss having that. But obviously I love having both at the same time.
It's objectively easier to be a parent of one, I think. It's fair to say. So it's harder to do two, but better as well.
Yeah, I think it's 100% easier to have one. I mean, I've had two for 3 weeks, and it's like knocked me for six.
Yeah.
And do you know the only thing that has kept me sane, like the only reason why I'm upright, is because Clementine, my oldest, is now just turned 6. So she's semi-self-sufficient. She's rational to a degree. I have no idea how anyone is sane with a similar age gap to the one that you've employed.
No, I think we've got a good age gap.
What is it?
It's 3.5.
Right.
We were able to explain what was happening when he was 3.5, and he got it. No, because he was like 3 when we were pregnant.
Yeah.
Then we was 3.5 when we had the baby, and he got it. He understood it, and he was out of nappies. He was pretty self-sufficient. I mean, still a 3.5.
if he's ever self-sufficient, yeah.
But
we coached him, didn't we?
I could definitely see a smaller age gap. It would be really hard.
Yeah,
I don't think I would have enjoyed
I think
it.
yours is really tough because, you know, when I think about Clementine at 3, 2 things that she really had. Firstly, totally irrational, like wants to borrow something from you but wouldn't dream of lending you something of her, like totally irrational. And also ridiculously competitive.
Okay.
She is now, but she's not going to be competitive with a baby.
Yeah,
you know, when she was 3,
it'll come. Yeah.
When she was 3, that dynamic between the two of them would have been tough. How does that?
No, that will
work?
definitely kick in next few years. I can see it. It's going to happen.
Ours
for
are
sure.
already super competitive.
Well, no, it's one way, isn't it? It's one way. Baby's not sitting there going, "I need to win this round."
But though you say that, our baby's a big boy, right? So he's 9 months. He's in 18-month clothing, like popping out of it already.
Really?
And I can already see he gives it back as well as he can.
Yeah, but that's because he hasn't learned fear. That's what babies are like. They haven't learned fear. Whereas when you're older, your ego has started to emerge already. Like, no doubt about it. Even our oldest has some sort of an ego at 4, and he's like. And we talked about the story when we said that our baby had a strong neck, and he was like, "I've got a strong neck."
Yeah.
There's that competition, but once it becomes a 2-way street, the brother dynamic, I'm very familiar with it. That is definitely gonna pop off for sure.
I am really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing them like fighting with each other in a good way.
Yeah.
Not in I'm you know, there will be times when they are actually fighting, and I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the dynamic when they're a bit older and seeing how they get on as brothers.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah. Do you know what I always find really interesting when you sort of talk to like a couple is how it works for them in their household. Obviously you had a thriving career. You know, you're part of the Spencer and Alex thing, and that effectively had to go into hibernation, and Spencer had to focus on work. Is that the way that you did it?
It didn't have to, but it's the way it's gone.
Right.
I think...
Did that work?
It works for us.
I think in fairness to us, and this is the good thing about having Al on here, is I can be held accountable immediately. So if you don't agree with something I say, feel free to interject. But with Al, while she had a great stint and loved being involved in the stuff, it was never much of a passion for her as it was for me in terms of the YouTube side. So when it was fun to do, and we had made some content and we went on some great holidays, and it was just a dream channel, wasn't it? Because we just got to do stuff we loved. It was great. But once it become like a bit of a chore, or we had to start thinking about the sort of privacy stuff around our kids, there was just less compelling of an argument to do it.
Yeah.
And that was also coupled with things like hashtag making me so busy that something had to give.
Yeah.
And the obvious thing was that. Like I said, the channel's not dead. We just don't make videos on there currently. Like we are, and like I said to you before when we talked about stuff like this, we don't like to do things half-heartedly. So I would never just put one video on a channel just because someone offered us some money or something. Like we'd want to do it if the channel was going to be regularly upkept. So there could be a world where it comes back one day. We haven't drawn a line on it.
No, it's not dead.
No.
It's in hibernation.
Yeah.
It goes. Yeah, I never loved YouTube.
Right.
I did enjoy it, but it does take its toll. We'd done it for a good few years, and as soon as the children came along, or the child came along, the motivation got lower, and I was overwhelmed with motherhood.
Yeah.
So I still worked. I work behind the scenes. I work
Still works
on the
now.
businesses.
Yeah, still works.
I just don't work in front of the camera anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where really like my strengths lay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing as well is like, and this is no kind of shots fired at anyone that does do this, right? But particularly in those first few years of motherhood and parenthood, like if you're going to make content of that, it's got to be authentic as far as I'm concerned. Like you can't be going, okay, let me get my makeup on, make it look like I'm like absolutely smashing it all the time, because it's not like that in reality. You have really hard moments. I'm sure we'll dig into some of them in this episode. And that's what one of the things we want to be really transparent about with this podcast in general is talking about the hard bits. We've done it already. So like there wasn't much desire from either of us to make videos. We were just trying to survive.
How did you find it? You know, that initial, like when you go from being, don't you? You go from being kind of free and totally at your own disposal. You can do anything you want. You've got disposable income, you've got time, you've got a job that allows you to be free, to suddenly having a baby.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition? Were you...
When we had our first child, I think we very much felt ready to have a child. Like we turned 30. I think we were 31 when we had our first.
Yeah.
We had a very fulfilled and busy 20s. We did loads of stuff together, didn't we? I mean, bearing in mind we worked together. We're with each other day in, day out, 10 years working together. We're going to amazing countries, cool content, cool experiences. Then we broke up.
Yeah.
Mad that was all played out. It's mad that was all played out. In the public eye.
Well, we broke up after 8 years.
We broke up after 8 years. Then, after a year apart, which we can get into if you want.
Did he come begging? Did he come begging with his tail between his legs? Is that
Absolutely. I was like, I'm in Australia, mate.
Did you go?
I was in Australia for close to 3 months, and when I came back, we were just like, shall we?
Right.
Pretty much, to be fair. I mean, we can get into that if you want. I mean, but I think what you were getting at originally is like we had. I don't think you're ever ready where you can say, close the door on my sort of solo adulthood and just ready to be a parent because I don't want to do anything else anymore. You're always going to have stuff on your bucket list you still want to do, whatever. And we still do. But we couldn't complain, could we? We had proper ticked off a lot of things. We'd done more than a lot of people probably get to do in a lifetime. So we were always, and it was very deliberate because to the point where we'd broken up when we didn't agree about children at one point.
Was that part of the? Was that part of the motivation to part? A conversation around. Was that what it was?
Well, I think we broke up a few weeks before I turned 30.
Yeah, well, I'm a couple months older, so I just turned 30, hadn't I? Really?
Yeah.
And it was you know we did a whole video about it, didn't we? After we got back together, but it was a me problem more than anything else. It was I was in a pretty dark place, and I was very aware of Alex's biological clock, and I definitely wasn't in a place to have kids. So I was like, look, if that's a really big thing for you, I need to sort myself out. We never sort of said like we are broken up and we will never get back together. But and then Alex carried on working in the business for the first sort of 9-10 months of that separation. So we saw each other probably on a weekly basis. You know, we had a few rendezvous during that time, as people often do when they're apart.
What do you mean?
You know, just a couple of je ne sais quoi.
Just keep speaking French.
That's as far as my French goes. But you know, I think that's pretty common though. Yeah. For people that have been together for that long. So we were never fully separate.
And then
well, it depends on the terms you're on, doesn't it? Like I say, we were working together still. We had a dog together.
We had a house together.
We never fully separated. And then what happened was, as Al mentioned, she actually then left the business and went to Australia. Right. So that was really, 9 or 10 months into the breakup, the actual breakup, wasn't it? Because I
think it was becoming real for you, actually.
Yeah. But also, I think I'd been on a bit of a journey in that time. Yeah. And I suddenly, I think I spoke this before. I had this really, really lucid dream about 5 months into the separation where, and this is crazy, right? I reckon I'm going to lose you here, but it's true.
You already have with the dream.
I had a dream where in the dream, like I remember it now, like it was yesterday. I'm in this house that doesn't exist. It's an imaginary house. And I knew the town it was in, the little village of Essex it was in, this imaginary house. And in the house, in the dream, I was very aware that I was a parent. And at this point, I'm not a parent in real life. And I knew I had 3 kids. And in the dream, I'm walking up around the upstairs of this sort of like upstairs of the house. And I'm going through the bedrooms. Everyone's asleep. And I go to the first bedroom and there's my child sleeping. And the second bedroom, there's a child sleeping. The third child, there's a child sleeping. And I go to my bedroom and I open up and I see Alex in the bed. This is why we're separate. But what was crazy about that dream is, bear in mind I explained where I'd been in the sort of years prior to that, when I'd been in quite a dark place. I'd already started to do some work and I'd started to feel a lot better. In the dream, and then after the dream, when the dream ended, I felt the feeling of love a parent has for a child,
right?
Even though I didn't have a child. It was like the dream gave me
the
dream gave me like a gift. It gave me this feeling of what it would feel like to be a parent. And ever since that dream, I've only ever wanted to have kids.
Wow.
So
you know when you eventually decided to give it another go, get back together, were children that was
absolutely
non-negotiable. But
it was one of the conditions for getting back together.
Yeah,
was
really?
we get engaged.
Yeah.
But actually, the condition was to get married.
Yeah, which is part of the process.
Are you?
We're engaged.
5 years deep, Rory.
Into engagement.
Halfway there. No, what happened is...
What happened?
we this is why I said to you on the podcast previously, it looks like we got back together and got pregnant. It was almost like, is that why they got back together?
Yeah.
But it was the opposite. We got back together with a plan to get pregnant double quick, and it worked pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
How quick?
Well, we got back together officially, I think, was it like Christmas time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just after Christmas in 2019. And then we were pregnant by like March, April.
And when
I know you'd like it to be a longer process. We've talked about this already. You think everyone deserves...
that's unfortunate for you. It's great for you.
It is for us because it's unfortunate for us because we'd had a year apart.
Yeah. But do you? I was going to ask you because I know this is
our straight back into the same house.
It was my house.
Yeah,
you were still
we never separated.
Actually, so some people were living in my house.
Stuff there.
Well, it's not our house. No, let's not get it twisted. It's our house.
Yeah.
And we'd spent some of the separation. Alex has spent living there, but the latter part of it, I spent living there. And I had a load of the esports boys that played for Hashtag living in the house as well. And it had become a bit of a like uni pad.
Yeah.
And then obviously
you
Al
had to
came
boot
back
everyone
in.
out.
Yeah.
We were like,
and it was
sorry,
all right
guys.
during COVID. It was a bit crazy, wasn't it, timing? But I was going to ask you, Al, because it is our best performing clip on this pod so far, is Rory talking about the in his words, the pleasure of the, getting pregnant stage. Is that how it was for you as a woman? Did you feel that same thing?
Absolutely not.
Really? Well, you should say a little bit of it's good because I am right
here. You need to up
here.
your game a bit, yeah.
For God's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you enjoy that? No.
It is. It is like enjoyable at the start, isn't it? But then like it becomes this, right, we've got, 4 days to get pregnant. We need to get on it now, ovulating like quick. And at first, like maybe the first month is like fun. But then it becomes, oh, we're not pregnant. So we've got to go again.
You're talking like multiple times a day.
Yeah, it's not that
you know what I
fun.
mean? I've got things to do.
But even scheduled sex is still good. It's better than no sex.
It depends how often you're getting it.
That's what I'm saying. Once you're in the process, you're doing it regularly, you don't need to worry about the no sex. You're just thinking, how much sex am I going to have until this woman gets pregnant?
Yeah, I stand by it. I mean, a lot of people got quite annoyed.
Also, with our second one, we when we conceived, I was so ill. But we had to do it because it was
the day. I know that's weird.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Do you know? I remember when we were trying to get pregnant with Clementine. I was working in Victoria and live in West Hampstead. I went home in my lunch break. I actually had to pop home, have sex, and go back to work all within an hour, which was fine. Yeah, I've got a coffee on the way. Yeah, it was absolutely fine. And all because of like the constraints of the way that it works. It's very difficult. But overall, I kind of look back on those days quite fondly.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't, we talked about on a previous episode, we both had miscarriages on our side. But other than that, we didn't struggle to, even the one we lost, you still became pregnant quite quickly. So like, I know that it's not that simple for a lot of people.
No, of course. And of course, I do obviously concede, and I'm very sympathetic when I understand it can become a trauma.
Yeah.
Month after month. I do totally understand that. But I can also see the positive before it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, once you were pregnant and everything was moving along, how much help did you want from Spencer?
I thought the question was going to go somewhere else.
What do you think?
Not that.
You touched on it before.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go, once you were pregnant, how often did you have sex?
No, because I know.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, we can talk about that.
Yeah, because never.
Well, we've touched upon it, and I know Al wasn't particularly pleased with the story I told a few episodes ago about what we had to do every night.
Yeah,
your
thanks
pregnancy.
for telling the whole world about that.
Yeah.
What one?
Just to recap, I had
What
to put a thing up her bum every night. A pessary of progesterone. Every night. Do you know what's funny about that, though? Do you know what,
progesterone.
Progesterone. Do you know what's really funny about that, right? So progesterone is like a steroid, basically, right? It's to strengthen.
Hormone.
It's a hormone, sorry, to strengthen your cervix in that case, right?
Yeah.
I believe. But there was a difference of opinion from the doctors. Yes, the first guy we see.
I thought it went somewhere else.
Well, it can go either.
Well, I really hope we did because we did it a lot.
Because I think you've been. That was a prank.
No, so this is the thing. So the first doctor, first time we see him, he goes, right, here's a prescription of these. This is going to last you like 3 months. Then you're going to get some more. You're going to do this until the baby comes.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like, okay, that's like 9 months of this. Fine. I'm signed up for it.
It's lockdown anyway. What else are we doing?
We get into it. It gets to like, maybe we had more than 3 months of prescription or whatever, but at some point we need to get a reload. And Al goes in, and a different doctor goes, "You're still doing that?" And we're like, "What?" The other guy said, and we might as well finish the course.
Yeah,
now.
he was like, after 2 weeks, I would have stopped that.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't know that it went there.
Did we do it for the second? Did we do
You
it?
can choose.
You can
do it
choose.
second time?
You opted into.
It's less messy that way.
Okay.
Did we do it the second time?
Yeah, so the second time, I also had to do it. But halfway through, I realised I could do it myself.
Yeah.
I didn't need Spencer to do it
Just
for
to
me.
be clear, it wasn't me insisting that I had to do it.
Did that
I
rob
was
you of
stepping
something?
up.
Were you?
I was stepping up as a hero.
Every night, I
Alex
pull him
didn't
up to
like
bed.
it.
Yeah.
She didn't like it.
It's such a stress, isn't it? Like, all of those things that you're doing, which I think post are quite funny. At the time, you're just like, this is so hard, and it's not even quite.
Well,
And 9 months is a long time to be pregnant. Like, you might think it, but as the woman, 9 months of being pregnant is a long time.
yeah, it's a long time.
I could tell definitely by 8 months, Victoria had had enough. She'd had enough. I was no longer in the marital bed.
Yeah.
She had this massive pillow. Do you have one of those pillows?
Absolutely, yeah.
The triangular one.
Stupid thing. Massive thing that basically meant there was no room for me. And if there was, she said there wasn't anyway. So, so I was out. And by the end, it was desperate, which is the only time that I had sex off the back of having hitting the jackpot and then deciding that it was that weird walk. You do a walk on a curb, drink raspberry leaf tea, eat a curry and have sex.
We
Not in
did
that order, though.
We did.
No, definitely not in that order.
We didn't have any sex during the first pregnancy because we weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
That was part of the thing with Alex's stitch, risk of infection. So we were banned off it. So I never got to do it. But then again, the medical advice changed for the second child. We were told we could. So it's all about what doctor you go to ultimately.
Yeah, seek a second opinion. Basically, if it doesn't go your way early, if you think that you should be allowed to get a second opinion, it could.
I mean, when it's your first child as well, you just do exactly what you're told, don't you? So they tell you to put something up your bum every night. I was putting up my bum just in case. I wasn't.
Could Spencer have helped more? When you were pregnant.
What is this? Let's just keep it.
No, because do you know what we have here? We have a great opportunity. Is there more that? Okay, we could keep it more generic. Could men do more? When you were pregnant, was there
Could men do more for me?
Yeah. Yes. Could there...
No, just tell me if you think I could. I mean, I will say I probably did more than I would have in a non-COVID world because we were home all day.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of things, like we weren't even playing football games. The biggest thing we probably have in our relationship that is testing for us is the fact that football takes me away on the weekends a lot.
Yeah.
And, for the whole season, basically. And even in the off season, the stuff that I have to do. So, and that's hard because weekends, it's usually a time to enjoy yourself, and Alex doesn't always get to do that. That didn't happen during COVID, did it? So in COVID, you probably got the best possible version of me as a.
Yeah.
Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. Also, I think it depends on the woman and their pregnancy. Like, if you have a particularly hard pregnancy, you're going to need more support from your partner and more help. I would say, apart from the cervix issue we had and getting the stitch put in, I had pretty easy pregnancies. So didn't need that much support during it, apart from that second pregnancy where I had such bad morning sickness. I needed you to basically step up with our first.
Yeah.
And you did. Like, you were so good. And I think your bond has gotten so good because of that.
Yeah. And I think you just got to that age as well that helps. But no, I think that it's funny how you look at it, isn't it? Because there's definitely way worse pregnancies than anything we've experienced, clearly. But equally, there are people like you still had to deal with a cervical stitch, and you know it wasn't a pleasant procedure putting it in or taking it out.
Yeah.
We had to deal with this pessary thing. You had to, forceps were used in the delivery as well. So and that's the first one. The second one was an emergency
that's
C-section.
Quite traumatic. Well, they're both of those. Are quite
Both times, Al was doing the full-on pushing, going through all the labour of anyone else to then have to have some sort of intervention.
See, that's why we didn't do what's it called? Where
Induction.
Yeah. In the end, Victoria opted out of induction because we had so many stories of people that go through the whole process of induction, which is quite a traumatic experience. You then go through induction potentially for 48 hours, and then you end up having a C-section anyway. You do both.
So with our second, I did get induced because we'd gone in for a scan. They weren't happy. They said, let's get you induced today. Let's have this baby.
Heart rate was a bit low, wasn't it?
And it was due date anyway.
They weren't happy with the heart rate. It was a bit variable.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So the pessary went in, and immediately my contractions started really, really intense. I was having no rest in between contractions. The baby was having no rest. They usually have it in for a couple of days, and they pulled it out after maybe an hour.
Right.
They were just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
They whipped it out. And then I did go into labour naturally, but induction is it is horrible.
Yeah. No, it's
long,
the whole
painful.
I found the whole process of, particularly the second time, because the second daughter that I just had was C-section, and I just found that whole thing like terrifying. You know, like really, really serious, really daunting. And it's amazing, isn't it? You know, with all these like advancements in modern medicine, this is prehistoric. This is like you're giving birth the way that your great-great-grandparents would have done. But it's
so natural, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
That's what our bodies are designed to do.
Yeah, but it's so scary.
It makes me more scared as to what would happen if they weren't there, because when I was struggling with pushing out our second child, I remember I was starting to get quite emotional because I was like, look, my body can't do it. Yeah. My body can't push a baby out naturally by itself. What would happen in, you know, that circumstance if we didn't have modern day?
Did you know that you were having a boy both times?
Yeah. Spencer was like, you need to find out because you're going to be disappointed.
Well, what happened was we did a sort of gender reveal thing twice, actually, didn't we? The first year we did it because it was COVID and we had no chance to see anyone, so we thought we were allowed to do things in the garden by this point. So we got invited some people around in the garden, and then we had some people on FaceTime or whatever, and we did what is a football, wasn't it? I kicked the football.
What turned blue?
It went blue or pink. It went blue. And so we found out we were having a boy the first time. Second time, we found out at my brother's house at Christmas with a balloon, which we got our oldest to pop, which was quite nice.
Oh, that's sweet.
Little word of advice there, though, which is interesting. It depends on your hospital and your region as to whether they'll tell you the sex and stuff, like if you're not the mum. So this is pretty dark, actually. But basically, we knew we wanted to know the sex, but we knew we didn't want to know the sex, because that's how you do it. You know, to do a reveal, you need someone else to find out so they can prepare the props. So we were inquiring different options, and then one option we were looking at was worst case, can they just tell me, and it'll be a surprise for Alex. And in our hospital, which is in Essex, they were like, no, absolutely not. The only people we will tell is the mum, because in some cultures, the man finds out and insists on termination if it's not the sex they want it to be. Right. Some cultures prefer boys, for example.
Right.
So they have to tell the mums. It's pretty dark.
So you can't actually find out.
So at our hospital, they would only ever tell Alex. So what we had to do was we had to pay for a separate scan, which sometimes you can get, and they have other benefits to them. These scans, they give you, you know, when you get screening for certain birth defects.
This is called a harmony test. Harmony test.
Yeah. So basically, it's good to do anyway if you can. It's a bit more money, but it allows you to have a higher percentage likelihood of when they give you like there's a 1 in 10,000 chance your child could have this or that. It's more accurate of the harmony test than what the NHS give you. So that's a reason alone to do it if you're interested in that sort of thing. But equally, they will tell you, or they'll give you a thing that says the gender, not tell you.
Yeah.
But then we were in there. Do you remember? We were in there, and the woman's scanning, and she just keeps calling the baby he while we're in there, and we're like, have you just spoiled it for us? And then she was like, no, I always say he. And of course it ended up being a he.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so we'll never know.
So you know what Spencer said there, which is quite revealing. You had to find out because there would be an element of maybe do you?
For the second, yeah.
You wanted a girl the second time.
You can say it. You can say it. He's going to see it one day, but you can say it.
I was interested to see what a girl was like.
Right.
Because I'd done the boy thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was
Completed it.
really happy to have a boy the first time around because in my life, I'm surrounded by men.
Yeah.
I've got brothers. All my cousins are boys, basically. Work around football. So just a lot of masculine energy. I think, for me, a son was ideal for our first child.
Yeah.
Then I was like, could we try having a girl? Bearing in mind, my pregnancy was so different the second time round. Everyone was like, you're definitely having a girl. You're definitely. And it was like, okay,
those things never come true, do they?
No.
You know, like the angle of the bump and things like that. Like, it's just never true.
You can see on the video we did at the Christmas, you can see our face just drop. It's only like a 3 or 4 second drop. You've got to slow it down, but you see the...
Because in my head, we were having a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I think, and I said I'd rather have a girl second time as well, to be honest. Like, that's not taking anything away from our son, who we love, obviously. But just, again, same sort of, we both got 2 brothers. You know, I went to boys' schools a lot of the time. I've had the opposite, same experience. I've not been around a lot of girls in my life, really. Like, so I wanted some of that energy. And I knew that my brother, whose first was a daughter, he really benefited from it. And he said it really sort of changed him in a good way. So I was quite open to that. And that was one of the things I thought we could talk about today, actually, is do you, and I know the answer to this, obviously, but for the millions of people watching, do you want more? And would it be a girl if you were to design your favourite?
Ooh, if we were going to do a little test tube sort of.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can be done.
Would you go for a third? Are you both open to having another?
I would go for
You're
another
more open to it
child.
than me at the moment, I think.
Yeah. By the way, I love having 2 boys. Just want to clarify that. I love the dynamics of the brothers. But it would be nice to maybe put a girl in there.
But what
You know what's going to happen, don't you?
It'll be another boy.
Will be another boy.
Twins.
You know, my brother.
Twin boys
It
next.
Could be.
Twin-
My brother's got 4 boys.
Just
So
at 4. And they might go for 5.
Do you feel like they're searching for a girl? Do you think?
my brother is absolutely searching for another girl.
Yeah.
For a girl.
Yeah.
And so you two, is it in discussion at the moment? Are you...
No. Not one way discussion. Well, here's what I would say. I would say, would you be as bullish on having the third if it was guaranteed a boy? Someone said it's definitely a boy.
I always just think about our future. I love the idea of, the baby stage is really hard. Don't get me wrong. I don't love looking after a child 24/7 who needs you all the time.
And now it's exclusively breastfeeding
I don't
as well.
know.
So
Yeah, well,
it is
do you know what? This is the way I feel about Victoria. You know, today when I went out to work, it was like I'd won the lottery and I was going on holiday. I was like, okay, bye. I'm going to get on the train. I'm going to pop and have some nice lunch. I'll get a nice coffee. I'll come and sit with you and call it work. It's amazing. Victoria's literally just sat there like that, just with this baby fully attached, going she can basically walk to the local butcher. She can get that far, but she can't do anything. She's just like that. I was thinking, oh my God, that's so difficult. It's like so hard on her.
Really hard.
Are you ready to go back? See, that to me
Still
is just
in
going
it.
back
Still
to
in
the
it now.
trenches. You're still there to a degree. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really leave my son for more than 4 hours max.
Yeah.
Today is a
Because
bit of a treat for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Realistically. I'm not trying to
No, absolutely,
patronise
it
you,
is.
but it
It's
is
the
a
first
treat.
time he's let me out in 4 years.
Be careful what you say.
I mean, and by the way, bit of a sidetrack. These aren't pajamas.
Well, you just jumped
do you
in
know
it
what I
before
thought
I
that?
said it.
Did you think it?
I told her that if you wear them, people are going to think they're
I
pajamas.
thought that,
but I'm not
do you know,
cool.
because obviously you've got a 9-month-old. I said to Victoria, just go as you are. Like, she's dressed, but it's house dress.
Yeah.
She's like, I just can't get it. I went, go as you are.
Yeah. To wear.
Yeah, don't take fashion advice from us.
No, that's
exactly.
true.
I do.
Yeah,
allow.
I'm
we don't
I'm
know.
the least fashionable man in the world, but equally, I did think they were pajamas. But I thought, fair enough.
I think the people on the tube thought they were pajamas too.
Are they not?
I mean, they could be.
They're
Couldn't
really
let's be
trendy
honest.
trousers. So
We also saw a man wearing the same trainers as you on the train as well, and he was
really cool.
He was
and he was
cool
really,
guy.
really cool. Yeah,
There's a trendy mum look. She's a very trendy mum.
trendy mum.
She asked me to say that on
have you
camera.
got
She's a
that?
very trendy mum.
Have you
Cool
become?
mum.
You know,
Cool mum.
in your neck of the woods, have you become that? Have you got like mum mates you all meet in Gales and
Pretty
like,
much.
push you?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, you've
I mean,
got
I
the,
did NCT with my first, which was
We did
I had-
NCT.
Yeah.
We both. I was on the calls with you.
You were okay.
Yeah,
Well, we
I'm not having
did
that.
NCT.
On the call.
I haven't met
Oh, what
any of
did
them
you do?
since.
I did-
But I did the call.
You never joined the WhatsApp group.
Did you not join the dad's WhatsApp group?
Too cool for school. This kid.
That's not what it was. It's not what it was.
You didn't like them?
No, nothing against them. Nothing against them.
You didn't like them?
No, to be fair,
that.
we
You
did
didn't
it
like
on Zoom, which wasn't.
Yeah, that's not the same.
You couldn't have that connection.
How can you put the nappy on the doll if you're in Zoom?
Exactly. You got to just use a teddy.
Yeah, yes.
Is that what? Did they make you do?
Yeah, they were like, make sure you bring a teddy next time.
Yeah, I remember those NCT classes. They were. I think they were quite good for Victoria because it meant that she had a bit of a network to go.
Definitely.
They're amazing.
Can I put Germaline on this baby or whatever? She could put it in the group and somebody would know the answer.
Yeah.
I'm still really active with my group.
Are you?
I just saw them. Some of them. I think there was 4 of us that went for dinner the other day. Our eldest now 4. And then some of them have had their seconds
nice.
then.
Yeah, it's really good. I definitely recommend.
So why do you hate all the dads?
I don't.
No. To be fair, there was no WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
I don't think
There you go.
WhatsApp group.
This is me getting just absolutely dug out here. I'm not having it. There is. I've had enough stuff on WhatsApp groups on YouTube. If you remember, you haven't seen the WhatsApp group. Remember that one? Jeremy Lynch, if you're watching, how are you?
He's definitely not watching.
Well, you never know. I think he's a father now.
He's a father now, isn't he?
I think the NCT is definitely something people should do, especially now it's non-COVID times and you get to do it in person. Because you've got great mates in that group.
Yeah, I met up with them like once a week. We would go for like lunches, coffees, park
that's
trips.
lovely. Yeah, it's nice to have that bit of a network. Do you know where I made a massive mistake with NCT? Where we made a massive mistake when we had Clementine. We were living in the borough of Camden, so we did our NCT in there. And basically what happens is everybody leaves.
Yeah.
Everybody has a baby. You know, they're 30 odd or whatever. They live in the borough of Camden. They have a baby, and then within a year or two, they're gone. Yeah. So there's nobody left. Everybody had gone.
Everyone leaves London. It feels that way. We talked about that the other day, didn't we? Like
everybody.
You both grew up in London, north and south, and I was just outside in Essex, and everyone seems to migrate into London for a certain part, and now it feels like everyone's kind of left.
What you have to do is do your NCT classes where you're going to live, so that you then have a network where you are. That's but they're quite important, I think.
I think so, for sure. But going back to what we were talking about with another baby and stuff, and the reason why because I love being a dad, clearly, I made a podcast about it, and I enjoy the idea of having lots of kids. The reason why I'm not so confident on having a third right now or looking at it right now is a couple things. One is, like, we've talked about it, when you get past that baby stage, you've got to really choose the right moment to go back into it again. Is there things you want to maybe tick off in your life and things that we can do that we can we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, we can start planning for them, and getting pregnant right now would kill that. Not to say that we wouldn't get pregnant again, but the other main reason behind that is that I have always said I want to adopt kids one day. It's always been a thing for me, and Alex has got on board with it. I think it's probably fair to say you weren't as keen on it as I was, but you were receptive to the idea. Yeah. And I actually am still
like Madonna. Is that what you think?
Not necessarily. I mean, they could be. Yeah, they could be from other countries, but no, it's more about. There's a couple of reasons for it, but it's more about I like the idea of our kids getting to a much older age, and when we're in a maybe different environment. Like, I think with the YouTube game particularly, we've been in it for so long now. Like, and it's obviously quite stable now compared to what it was, say, 10 years ago. Yeah. But for so much of my adult life, it's been like, oh, let's just make sure we do this because you never know where the next gig's coming from. And let's do that and let's do that. And you put things on hold. So there's things that we want to do with our lives. And I think that having 2 kids and of a certain age, you can do that. But also, if you get past that and your kids are then like teenagers and you're looking at either adopting or, say, fostering, I love the idea of them being able to be part of that, and you having your biological kids who are almost phase 1, if you like, and then you've got this extended family that you can create.
Do you think that you have, and I think it's a very specific person, and it's very important to be able to like recognise your limitations, isn't it? I couldn't do that. I'm not the man for that. But equally, I had a stepdad who was fantastic for me, really looked after me and was dedicated to me in the way that he would his own children. Do you feel that you can extend the same amount of love to a child that isn't yours?
Definitely. I
do you, Al, as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've never done it, but and I think it also depends if you get them as a baby or if they come into your family as a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old. I don't know. We haven't really talked about at what point we would maybe say do we want a 10-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, it's all linked.
We have talked about getting like straight in and like a 3-year-old, missing out the early years.
I think what it's more about is we're not in the right place to do that now. So we're not saying we're going to adopt someone. Yeah. There's actually, we did look into it, didn't we? And there's rules around adoption as well. Like if you're going to adopt a baby, you can't adopt a baby if you have a baby that's younger than 2.
Right.
There needs to be a certain gap, and they don't want that competition.
Yeah.
If you like. Yeah. But So I want us to get. We've done a whole episode on homeschool, obviously, and like no point when I sit and wax lyrical about the benefits of homeschooling am I saying I want to do that in my life right now. Do you know what I mean? So you got to get to a certain point.
Does that chime with you, Alex? You know, obviously Spencer spoke really like insightfully about the benefits of homeschooling and kind of acknowledged where maybe it wouldn't work for everyone as well. Are you in favour of homeschooling?
I mean, absolutely. We talk about this nearly every day, don't we? I mean, especially with our eldest turning 4, he's going to be starting school in September. So it's a conversation we have to be having right now. Sometimes, you know, like when you're on Instagram and stuff comes up when you're searching things. So like you get served more content of the same. So I get served a lot of homeschooling content.
Yeah.
A lot of it is based in America. But I'm just like, look at it and I think, I could do that. I could be a homeschool mum. I don't like the idea of my children not being around me and most of their influence coming from a teacher and not from us.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds egotistical.
No, not.
No, I think a lot of people would love to do that. It's just not a benefit. A lot of what, you know, maybe we have to acknowledge in this podcast in general, a lot of the ways that we are choosing to parent, you know, is because of the situation we find ourselves in. You know, I make no, you know, admissions or like apologies for that, because we are literally as self-made as they get, me and Al. Like Al quit her job, you know, at KPMG.
Is that what you did?
She quit.
I did a number of things.
Yeah,
that sounds like really fancy. I was a PA there.
Yeah, she was a PA at KPMG, but she'd only been.
Like Erin Brockovich. Think about that story.
But she was going in. She was doing the grind. Is my point. We left London. We went to Hertfordshire. I was making no money from YouTube. Al was making. I'd quit my job to make no money from YouTube, and Al was getting the train and doing the commute, going in to do a work there. And when Al quit, we weren't even making enough to pay my share of the rent, let alone our share of the rent. Yeah. So we gambled. We gambled big time. We had the hard conversations when we were like, well, we're going to have to move home if it doesn't work. And I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. It's not. We're very privileged to have parents that would put us up. But most people wouldn't do that at our age. Yeah. And they're in employment and they've got settled jobs and they're earning money to just give up on that. And we used to call it our smashing it phase. We had like, it was a 2-year phase where we worked like dogs.
Yeah.
Every single day. Yeah. Me and Al in a team, in a room. And it worked. Yeah. It got us from nowhere to somewhere. It got us from not being able to pay rent to buying a house. Yeah. It got us all these things. So as a result of that,
and now you could reap the rewards potentially if you decide to go down.
So I mean, the reason I was here today, for example, is that because we've got a nanny at home who does 2 days a week. And that nanny we didn't have with one child. And that was like, I wanted to make sure we covered it on this episode. I 100% understand not everyone watching this will be able to get a nanny, and they're expensive. They are expensive.
So you do it 2 days a week?
2 days a week, 8 till 5, and I live for those days.
Yeah. But a lot of that's because we actually had a nanny quit on us. So the first nanny we got, we felt that the dream setup was for them to do a weekend day. It was non-negotiable when we first looked for a nanny. We wanted to get a nanny for when the second child came. And it had to work. They had to work a Saturday, because I have this dad guilt when I go out on a Saturday. Not only am I aware that I'm leaving Al at home with kids, I'm aware that she doesn't get a Saturday, i.e., when her friends are free to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, we need to cover that Saturday, and it was really me leading that strategy, but that made it harder to find someone, definitely, didn't it?
Yeah, which is why we don't have somebody doing a Saturday anymore.
They don't do Saturdays now, right?
No.
But it worked for you, the 2 day week.
Yeah, now that our youngest is a bit older, it works. So I actually, this is going to sound maybe not great, but I absolutely loved our newborn first 3 months with our second.
Did you?
Because I had the help.
Yeah.
For 3 days of the week, I had help. So I absolutely loved the newborn.
Yeah.
Where I didn't with the first.
Yeah.
Some people might have a grandparent that moves in. We have grandparents that help, obviously. I'm not, we love them. But I'm just saying some people might have another way they can get that help. And some people just don't have it. And I get it. And I'm like, my heart goes out to you because I know how hard those stages are. But one of the reasons we aren't like, these guys making crazy money on YouTube. We had a spell where we did really well out of it, but we're not those people anymore. But what we did do is we saved a lot of money, quite frankly. Like, we didn't spend, we never did anything lavish. We never, bought flash cars. We never did anything in our YouTube pomp, if you like. So basically we had a conversation after the first child and we're like, should we just spend some of our savings on having a more enjoyable
It's an incredibly wise way to spend your disposable income if that's what you feel like you need. It's quite holistic, it's good for your mental, it's good for everything, isn't it? If you need that sanity.
It's been a bit of a game changer, I'd say, getting that support. And that's something we learnt from the first child.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough support. So we went a bit cuckoo, didn't we?
Well, I think we are, I don't know the best word to use this, frugal, maybe, like, is not the right word. Like, I always have had a mentality in my career that I don't know necessarily where the next paycheck's coming from, and I don't ever want to be made to do something I don't want to do.
Freelancer anxiety.
And I hate the idea of getting a job that doesn't interest me. So I've always said, like, right, if we stop tomorrow, how long can we survive until we run out of money? So we haven't spent money on things over the years. So it was a big commitment to do that. But we had a few things, didn't we, in that first, when we had one child, that I would say, I remember we had Danny on the other week, and one of the pieces of advice I gave to him off air when we spoke a few months ago is I said, make sure you have a conversation with Tennessee about what you're expecting of each other before the baby comes. Make sure you're on the same page of what sort of parent you're going to be. What are your non-negotiables? Like, if you've got certain career ambitions you will not give up on, make sure you've had that conversation. If you have an amount of active dad days a week you want to be, or mum days, whatever those things are, because the issues come when there's a disalignment between your expectations.
Yeah.
And our biggest row probably since we became parents was about a year and a half in, when I still present a lot of like gaming stuff, esports stuff. I've done for 10 years. I've presented the World Cup of FIFA, or EA's game. So I was in Copenhagen for that. And this was the first one, I think, maybe the first or second one since we had a child. And it was like 3 weeks in Copenhagen because all the events were back to back. And usually it's never that intensive. Sometimes it's in London. It's like easy. I could just go there every day. This was like 3 weeks out of the country. And pre-baby, Al would always come on these trips with me. That was one of the great perks of our one year for EA. I presented in Miami, Vancouver, Sydney, Berlin, Barcelona. It was like a dream. We had holiday almost every single one.
Yeah, wonderful.
But then what happens is that gig comes along when you're parents, and you realise how different that is. Yeah. So I remember saying in the lead up, because Al was quite keen to come, weren't you? To Copenhagen.
I was like, this is brilliant. We're going to go live as a Scandinavian for 3 weeks.
Yeah. We'd never been there.
Let's see how they do it. Yeah. They're really happy.
We had it on our bucket list as well, didn't we? To go to Scandinavia, which we'd never done. So it was like perfect. And then we started to get a bit nearer. And I remember saying, look, I don't know if it's going to be as enjoyable as you think it is, because because it was back-to-back tournaments, we did very, very few days off to get them done. Yeah,
you're going to be busy. You're going to be in a hotel room. Yeah.
And what actually meant was, so our oldest at that point was in nursery, and he was in nursery
2 days a week.
So I was like, actually, you're doing 2 more days a week parenting than you are at home, because I'm going to be at work.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing to be in Copenhagen. But even on that one day off, I've not got a lot of energy. I'm doing 12-hour days on set, on air. That's not on working. That's on air. So you're on set a lot longer than that. And
from my perspective, I was like, no, I'm not missing out. I'm coming with. We're your family. I don't want to like miss out on the fun just because we've had a child. I just wanted to continue life as it was with a child. Yeah. But we quickly realised that
didn't exist.
Did you go? Did you go on the trip?
We went on the trip. We were supposed to be there for 3 weeks, but we lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, all of you lasted 2 weeks.
No, I stayed. I finished the gig.
Yeah. But I came home a week early.
And we had a massive row.
We had the biggest row
in Copenhagen. In the middle of Copenhagen.
Probably worse than when we broke up.
What's the name of that famous zoo? Or whatever it is? Like
We
were literally on the way there.
To the happiest place.
Stopping in the middle of the street, like having a shouting match. It was proper full on.
Yeah. And what was it about? What was it about?
It was basically Al, you tell me if you think I'm portraying this correctly, but it was basically about Al being unhappy with the setup, basically. And me feeling, I felt very defensive about that, because it wasn't like I was desperate to go to Copenhagen and do this work. I would have loved, I'm a bit like you sometimes, depending on what the thing is. You're saying I'd love to stay at home and just not have, crack on.
That's my fantasy.
A lot of the time, that's what I want to do, because I get taken away so much. And nowadays, if I'm being truthfully honest, only half the things I probably come to do are things I actually want to be at. A lot of them are just responsibilities that I have. So I wasn't like, can't wait to go to Copenhagen, this is going to be so much fun. But I was... we made a decision for me to take the work, and the money for the family. So if I'm then being made to feel a bit defensive as to whether I'm should be helping more, I'm like, hang on, I'm working for the team here.
So did you come back with your blessing?
There.
No, but did you come back? Did you storm off and leave?
No,
we agreed.
You agreed to go back. Right?
Yeah. So basically, your earlier question when you said, how do I find it now?
Yeah.
I did struggle with our first, because you have the child, your whole life changes. Yeah. You kind of embrace it because you're like, oh my God, it's so cool having a baby. And, it's all about, my life is all about baby now. And then the baby gets a bit older and you feel like your life is going to go back to having some independence. And, most women go back to work like a full-time job. Yeah. And I have to go back to work full-time. I'm so privileged. So our work is very flexible. So I can work the hours that I want to work when I want,
Yeah.
but I've definitely reduced. But I just really did struggle with the sleep deprivation.
It's killer.
The lack
It's
of
an absolute killer.
it's really
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Really bad.
And so you can't think straight.
Yeah.
The lack of support. So we put him in 2 days a week. We quickly realised it wasn't enough.
This is after 1. So he turned 1 and we got him
Yeah.
into nursery
Yeah.
2 days a week.
6 months we had to wait to increase our nursery days.
Oh,
Yes,
do you know what I've already done? I've put Pandora down for 5 days
Yeah.
at 10 months, and I can take a day off if I decide to take a day off.
Exactly.
Like we can
reduce
it.
we can reduce
Yeah.
it.
But you can't increase.
5 days in, you are there.
So sleep deprived, realising that my life's not actually, I haven't got any independence back, even though they've turned 1. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a bit more freer.
Yeah.
And not enjoying this trip that we've gone on. And I was thinking, when you would come back from working a 12-hour day, we would then hang out as a family. And it just, obviously,
Yeah, he's knackered. And,
we
yeah,
were
yeah.
both, our expectation of each other
Yeah.
wasn't aligned.
Yeah.
And it just created this massive rift in our relationship.
Yeah, so we needed some hard discussions and then some compromises, basically. And like, I think what happened is, what I'd say with me now is, and I say this as a compliment and a criticism to myself. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but one of the things I may be more prone to do than Alex is I see issues coming in advance. Now, that's probably because I may be a little bit more pessimistic or a little bit more cynical than Alex is, who's actually really, happy-go-lucky and is happy to let things happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I'm not saying I'm right every time, Alex hates it if I say I told you so or whatever, but sometimes I do see things coming, and obviously when then it all goes wrong in Copenhagen, I'm like, Al, I flagged this with you a month before we came. I said you weren't going to enjoy this trip. Don't make me now feel bad.
But do you know, I love like your enthusiasm to go on something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's invigorating. It's how life should be. You should want to go. I just don't know how anyone can get anywhere. Like, particularly when Clementine was born, I couldn't get to the supermarket. And when people were doing these, like one of our mates, when Clementine was very young, a very good friend of mine, he got married in Scotland on New Year's Eve. And Clementine was born in the January, so she was nearly 1. One of my friends had a baby in the November and drove from London to Scotland with a newborn baby. My baby was 1. I was like, how can you go? I can't get anywhere. And I used to think, God, I wish I would do that. I wish I had a bit more about me to say, yes, we can go. But for me, I just couldn't.
We've been pretty good at that, I'd say. We've done a
Yeah.
lot of travelling, haven't we? With
What
the kids?
with, yeah.
Yeah, we've done. We did
Yeah.
Costa Rica. It was a 10-hour flight.
Oh, that's the worst
did
thing in the
Portugal.
world.
Okay.
Was that horrific?
Have you?
Well, no,
have you
because
already
this will
covered
kill
this?
Al.
Was that horrific?
There's
It was.
something Alex is going to say
Is
now,
it?
which is going to be the point of no
Was
return
it?
for me on this podcast. And everyone that likes me is going to stop liking me.
I feel like the
happened?
world
And
needs to know.
It's true.
I need to know.
It's true. I'm not going to say it's not true, but I'm going to say to Alex, think very long and hard before you decide to tell this.
And then tell us.
Because
Well-
I sometimes tell people this story
You
like
do.
in like a dinner setting, and Alex says to me like, "Why did you tell them that? It makes you look so bad." And you're about to tell everyone on this show.
I reckon.
This is payback for the
Yeah, exactly.
For the what?
pessary up the bum.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you
For the
asked
year.
me to do
No,
the
you
pessary.
did it
I
for a
didn't
year.
want to
You were
do
getting
the
your rocks
pessary.
off.
I was not
You did it
enjoying
for a
that
year.
process.
It was not meant to be for a year, and you knew
The
it.
doctor told you it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, the doctor told
Well,
you 2 weeks.
The
and you
doctor
kept
was
doing it as
paid
a
actor.
prank.
It was a paid actor. The whole
It's some
thing was
elaborate
set up by
ploy
me.
from you.
Look,
Just
Do
tell
you
him.
want me to
Just
say
do
it?
it.
Yes.
Do what you got to do, Al. Do what you got to do.
I think.
I will
Okay.
have my revenge.
we went to Costa Rica when our eldest just turned 2 years old,
See, that's crazy.
and Spencer didn't sit with us on the plane.
What? He went first class. He went business.
No, I didn't go business. Come on.
Did he go business?
No, I didn't.
He didn't go business.
I'd never
he
do that.
sat 2 aisles away.
What? Did you book yourself a seat away?
It was a non-negotiable of the deal.
And I agreed to it.
Basically, that's what I'm saying. Don't come
What?
for me.
You said-
Our
oh,
new
wait.
agreement. I made the.
actually booked. You said,
I
"I'll
said-
come, but I'm not sitting with you on the
I
plane."
Yes.
said, no, I had. I'll be honest with you.
Hey, that's a new low.
So we'd never done.
That is a new low.
Let me say my piece, and then you can be the judge. I don't mind you being the judge, right? But I had a real. When you go on those flights, bear in mind at this point, where had we gone? Portugal, I think.
Portugal.
Maybe done a couple flights. Copenhagen.
Dhabi.
We've done Copenhagen. We've done a few.
miles away.
So, but 10 hours or whatever it is, and there's a couple flights as well, wasn't it? There's a couple flights. We went
It
direct.
was one
Direct to San
one
Jose.
long flight of 10 hours.
One
Yeah.
long flight
Anyway.
with a
10 hours.
2-year-old.
Anyway, the point is, I have, when you're on those flights and there's like a baby in front of you and they're like crying the whole flight.
Yeah.
And it's just the worst thing ever. I had for me, because I'd been to Costa Rica once before and I was really keen to go. And I thought it was like a really cool holiday. But that idea of the worst case scenario on the plane was enough to make me not want to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, and I think you probably relate
I wouldn't
to that.
go. I
right?
wouldn't
was
go.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I
I'd
can
rather
handle
not
that.
go than go.
So
with
I
Clementine.
just threw this idea out there, thinking there's no way she'll go for this. But this is something my brother taught me early on in business. He said, never make other people's minds up for them. If there's a win-win scenario
So it's
for you,
difficult.
suggest it, and they might go for it. So I just said, look, Al, we could go Costa Rica if, like, I don't know, you were prepared to, like, sit with him, and I would sit somewhere else in the plane, maybe. Like, and she was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, cool, shake hands, deal done.
I can't
And
believe
we did do a shift. I did help out a little bit.
Do you know why this is such?
Yeah, you did.
I
You
can't
did
believe
for
it.
half
'cause
an hour.
This is such a moment. This is such a moment for me because I have never ever met someone who would be more crafty than me or more shirking of their responsibility than me. I'm
we
the
didn't
king of
have
this.
to go. I didn't
I'm the
make her
king of
go.
this world, and you've managed to eclipse me. I wouldn't do that.
I didn't make her go. She took the deal. She could have said no to the deal.
Do you know what I would have loved? If you booked yourself a business class flight
I should have done.
and booked. I
should have done.
Spencer, I can't believe it.
Yeah, you're proud of me though.
I'm quite proud of you. Yeah. I'm quite proud of you. Yeah, I am quite proud of you.
And can I just say, the reason why I agreed to it is because I knew my life would be easier when he wasn't sitting with us.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, what I do is
No, you can't do that.
I'm
No,
so
no,
annoying
I'm helping
every
you out.
day.
You can't do that.
I
I'm
make
the
her not
hero
want to
here.
sit next
Yeah,
to me.
you can't do that. It'd be better if you weren't there. See?
No, honestly, I knew that if we were on a plane for 10 hours entertaining a 2-year-old, you'd be getting a bit irate, a bit like, just it was easier to not actually have you there.
And to be honest with you,
stranger.
our lads are actually so far, touch wood, have been dreams on flights, and we've done a lot of flights since then, and I have sat with them.
That's good of you.
I was just, I'm a
good.
good lad, aren't I?
To be fair, on the way back from Costa Rica, he did sit with
See,
us.
yeah, I changed in that 6 weeks changed me.
Yeah.
No, but what it is I just needed to see the evidence. I needed to know that he wasn't one of those kids because that would have just.
But you didn't see it because
Yeah.
you weren't.
Oh, I heard it. I was listening. I was going, oh, she looks like she's right now.
That is honestly
Put
unbelievable.
the headphones on, watch some film.
Do you know what you're saying about the weekends there? I can really empathise with that. Is there something I should be doing here? Because I work a lot of weekends. Every weekend, in fact. It's Saturday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday day. I will work all of those. And occasionally, on a Saturday, I'll do something. I'll go to football or whatever. I'm finding that, right, I'm a God-fearing Catholic boy, right? So I've got guilt ridiculously, like, within me anyway.
Same.
But this is, like, really hitting me. Like, I'll give you an example. This weekend, I'm going to work Friday night. Saturday morning, I'm going to Coventry. I'm a Chelsea fan, but I love Frank Lampard. I'm going to go to the Coventry playing
Is
in the
this
morning.
fun or for work?
Totally for fun. Work isn't.
You've lost her.
I'm
You can't
working.
do stuff
I'm
for fun.
working.
You don't have fun
but
yet.
I'm working Friday night and working Sunday. So the Saturday,
What's Victoria doing all week?
watching telly.
Working. Childcare is work.
I know. How do you should I go to Coventry? Do you think I can legitimately
Only
go?
with her explicit blessing.
You know what's quite ironic is by going to Coventry, you risk being sent
to Coventry? I know.
Which is,
yeah.
no one's going to get
Exile.
that.
I
It's
get it.
It's a
Exile.
phrase you say.
Yeah.
Basically, people
Someone
don't
sends
like
you to Coventry. It's like suggesting you
You know
Exile.
Mansplaining. You guys mansplain.
Did you know that
to the
phrase?
audience, to other men.
Did you know that phrase already?
No.
There you go then. So we had to mansplain it, else you wouldn't woman know.
So yeah. So do you cope with those weekends? You know, when Spencer's doing a hashtag and whatever else he's up to.
Yes.
Are you on
because
your own?
We have engineered it now. We've worked out what works for us as a family. So Spencer takes off a Friday for family day,
Right.
where our eldest isn't in nursery, so that's really nice. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I might go see my parents, or they might come to us, or I might hang out with my best friend who lives around the corner.
Is that coincidental? Because you're not from that way.
No,
is
yeah.
This,
No, I
is
went
this
to
a
school
new,
with her.
Is this a new mate?
I went
No.
to school with her best friend.
We all
And
went
that's
to
so-
uni together.
Complete fluke.
Yeah.
She's from the area I'm from.
Right.
And then we all went to the same uni, all coincidentally. They meet each other, become best mates. Just happened to be best mates with the girl who I went to primary school with. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
it's a dream. And she's
So-
a
and then a couple of
godsend.
years ago, she moved around the corner, literally around the corner from us. It was
Okay,
amazing.
so you do have a network there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So
And
there's people I can lean on and
Yeah.
we keep busy. Well, I do sometimes just like hanging out at home with my kids.
I would say
Yeah.
that the
I
dad...
like hanging out at home without mine. That's what I aim for.
If we take it back to just to finish, like what we were talking about with the Copenhagen incident, is what we did was, and this is where I think my practical like brain kicked in, as we're like, well, we need to fix this, but we need to also respect each other's wishes and desires. And what it was is, and then this is to say, like, I've talked about already how we have a little bit of help now with a nanny and things like that, is like we're not just laughing our way to the bank with loads of money, but we do have we can afford it. We can afford it, right? But it would be it's fair to say it was neither of our preferences to have hired help. We wanted to do it ourselves. What we realised was, and again, this correct me if I'm wrong, Al, 5-10 years ago maybe, I was on a mission to do certain work things, and if Al said she didn't want to do it, I would have been blinkers, right, we'll see you later then. That's how I was, and I'm not proud of that, but it did get me to a certain place in life, but I'm not that person anymore. And when I choose to do work now, it is mainly for the family and what we benefit from it, and it's always a decision we make together, isn't it? I go, should I do this? Do you want me to do this? So it's a very open discussion. But I was of the opinion that there was these work opportunities I did need to do because you don't know if they're going to keep coming. Yeah. So the compromise for me was I could see Al needed more help, and I don't know if I can give it. Not that I don't want to give it. Yeah. I think it's a better economical decision to do something else.
You focus on the work and get some help.
So the compromise was, do we get some help in? Because you weren't that comfortable with it. Is that the
conversation that you had in Copenhagen?
It was a couple of weeks after. Well, we'd been having it, hadn't we? We'd been working up to it.
So the resolution of the Copenhagen conflict.
I don't even know if it happened that quickly, because he was 18 months when we had that big bust up. Then we went to Tivoli Gardens and had a lovely afternoon. Yeah,
I think the first thing was that our oldest...
It was so weird.
He did some more days, didn't he, in nursery? That was the first thing that kicked in. We were like, look, we know this is coming. We've been on the waiting list for ages. Let's just get to the point where he goes from 2 to 3.5 days and see how that helped. And it helped massively.
It helped so much. It was like, oh, that's what the real issue was. We didn't have enough help. Then I also took a holiday. So do you remember when you spoke before about going, you let me take a holiday when he was 18 months? That made a massive
just you?
Yeah.
I went away with my friends for 4 nights, and I could just be me again.
And you were daddy daycare?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's good for both of you. It's good for you to experience what Alex does daily and spend...
Yeah, and that's the reality of it. Like, and this is me talking to anyone at home maybe going through something similar or looking forward to when they have kids. Like, it might take a big row for you to realise what you need to do. And that's not... And it was a good row, ultimately. Not pleasant at the time. But ultimately allowed us to come together to get solutions that we could get comfortable with. And you did have to get a bit more comfortable, didn't you, with ultimately when it came to her second child, we sort of said, look, it's non-negotiable this time. But at least for the baby stage, that first bit, let's spend some money and get someone to help us. Because unless I was unemployed and I would have happily stayed and done more parenting. Like, sometimes I would not going to sit here and say I'll swap places with Al. I wouldn't, especially this stage right now where the baby's glued to her and I'm like just in admiration of what she does. I'm sure you feel the same, Victoria. Like, the best thing ever. I'm not saying I want to do that, but there are times where I do fantasize about just not having to work for a couple of days and just being at home with the kids. I would love to do that. Yeah. But then it would wear off and then you'd be like, right, where's the money coming from? So it's a balancing act. But we just found that compromise and we were able to get some help. And even that wasn't that straightforward. Like, we had first world problems, but the nanny quits on us and you got to find a new one.
No, but also that only happened with the second child. We got a nanny.
Yeah.
We upped our nursery days. And I actually really struggled with the idea of having a nanny. I really struggled with the idea of somebody looking after my child, particularly at the baby stage. But now I can really see the benefits of it.
It's not. I know it's not that relatable.
Just to get some headspace and just to be able to do stuff for yourself.
And it's the same with nursery, right? Even at nursery, we were, and we've been talking about the other day. Do we definitely want to send our youngest to nursery because you're in a different headspace to what you were back then? And I do think going from 0 to 1 is the hardest because you're like. You feel like your life is over. You've lost your identity as a mum, particularly. And the second time, it's not so bad. So, listen, it's important to be relatable. And I know that not everyone's in the same position as us. I think what I'm trying to ultimately get at with this story is that you have bad moments. And if you're both practical and you want to get through them, you will do. It might mean making a little bit of an acquiescence on what your dream way of parenting is.
Everything is about that, though, isn't it? Everything is about manoeuvring and compromising. Absolutely.
I don't think you'll mind me saying, but we almost split up after that Copenhagen.
Yeah, it wasn't far off.
It was that bad that we were thinking maybe we'd be better off as co-parents. You had this realization at one point that if we weren't together, I would be doing less parenting, and so you recognised that I needed more help.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'd always recognised you needed more help. I'd always said to you, from before Copenhagen, I said to you, like, I think we should get some help in now. What ultimately it was, is you wanted me to change. You wanted me to do the help. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do it. And that's not me saying I don't do anything. I do what I can. But I was saying, look, I don't think that's a good decision for me to say no to these opportunities in exchange for helping you now when we can get through this stage. But if I say no to these opportunities now, they might never come back.
Yeah.
So I stand by it, but I think we were open enough to get through it. And in terms of the breaking up thing, I don't think that was so much about the setup. I think it was more about, it got quite heated and we both probably said some things we didn't really think properly about. And that does happen, right? Especially if you're sleep deprived and you say things and like...
It's also the pressures of parenting as well.
Yeah, and that's you got to listen. What I will say, and I know Alex feels the same with me about this, is what we went through with our breakup was, in hindsight, was a massive gift of context and perspective. Not many people get to have that. Now, there was no guarantees we would get back together, and there was no guarantees it would be happy ever after. And there still isn't. Life doesn't work like that, right? But what it means is, at quite an adult age, we got to see what life is like without the other person we've been with for 8 years. We did, dip our feet in the waters of dating other people and all these sorts of things. We've been through that. And I know it's not like, people don't talk about it a lot because it's like, everyone has this Disney World idea of life, but life isn't linear always like that. So it's real life. We went through those things. So and then when it comes to struggling again and having a dark period, you kind of know what happens next. If we break up, okay, it's different when you've got kids, but what will my life be like? Is it worth... And I'll say this about Alex, there's a lot of things I'll praise about Al all day long. And one of them is like, her sense of loyalty is more deep than mine is. And I don't mean that to say that I'm not a loyal person, but I think that my view in life has always been be happy. So as a result of that, if I saw someone struggling in a relationship and I saw they were clearly unhappy, and I've said this to people close to me that have, relationships.
Your natural
my natural response is break up with them and go and be happy then, because why would you be unhappy for one day? I'm not saying that's the right way to think. It's just my natural way my brain works. Whereas Alex's is, no, you work through that because what you get to as a result of that getting through is way better. And I completely have learned that from Al. And that wasn't a default response to me. So sometimes it all kicks off. I think it comes from childhood, I don't know, like from stuff at school, whatever. But my self-defense mechanism is, right, don't rely on anyone else to be happy. If I'm not happy, it's my job to make myself happy. What can I do now to improve my happiness? And that might mean being quite cold-hearted. Yeah. And I don't necessarily love that about myself, but Al's taught me
but also when you've got children involved, you can't,
exactly,
you're not just going to be like, well, okay, well, we tried, so we'll walk away now.
Yeah.
It's a good Venn diagram you've got because you both approach it in a different way, but you've got that grey area in the middle that seems to really work for you, which is perfect. You know how I always tell you that I don't want to do anything and I basically find everything inconvenient? Do you know the one thing that I love more than anything?
Football,
I like
poker.
That. Weddings.
So
don't not invite me to that thinking I don't want to come because I do.
I've got to add him to the list.
Got to create a list.
Yeah, we've got a bit of time for that. Don't worry, mate. We've got a bit of time to worry about that. Yeah.
Amazing. Alex, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It has been a joy to speak to you. It's been so insightful and so transparent, so honest as well. So we really do appreciate that.
Is there anything else you want to get in, like say to me on the record now before we let you go?
Let's get my list out.
You actually do have a list, don't you?
I do actually have a list.
You actually got physical.
You actually made a list. No, this is good.
I don't really know anything on the list.
There could be a follow-up to this, in time when you've seen a few more episodes as well.
I've got a good one. Do you remember after I gave birth the second time, you were like, oh, the appreciation I have for women has gone up like 100-fold. Like, I'm just walking down the street looking at women thinking, you're amazing. Like, the things women do, carry the children, birth the babies. That lasted 2 weeks.
Well, you're saying I'm not saying, I don't appreciate women.
No, but like the extra level of appreciation for women as a sex.
Yeah, you should have
what
more
they do.
You should be more like me.
That lasted 2 weeks.
Did I say that though?
Yeah.
Did I say it lasted 2 weeks? Oh, sorry. Well, I don't remember saying that, but I think that is a thing. Like I talked about it before, when you go about your normal life and you forget how amazing the act of childbirth is. It's the same. I probably had this like glow around me after the second child came along, particularly when it was like C-section and I just think, wow, women are incredible. Just on the record, I still think they're incredible. And I still think that is a thought process that I had to learn through having children with you and having that, because I haven't been around women loads in my life. But I don't remember saying it wore off, but it does sound like something I would say.
Sounds like something you'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, about that.
If you got anything from this podcast, and if you didn't watch Ben and Alex stuff before, you probably now know that Alex has to put up with an awful lot, and I talk a lot, and I have a lot of constant battles, and Alex has to deal with them more than anyone else. So I'd like to say on the record now, I apologise for everything I put you through, Al. I love you. I think you're fantastic.
Especially the pessary.
I think you are. Yeah, I don't apologise for that. I should get a gold star for that. But I think you're an amazing mum. And actually, to finish on this story, which is quite funny, and I'm happy to show my vulnerable side here on the podcast. When it was my birthday last year, we were in Portugal, and we were having a family dinner for my birthday. And you get your little cake or whatever we had. Al comes around. It's just a normal thing, kind of like what I just did now. Puts a hand on my shoulder with my little boy there as well. And she just says some nice things, and hopefully you meant them, but just things about me as a dad or whatever. Yeah. I cried my eyes out.
No,
and it's not.
Those things are so poignant, aren't they?
That's normal for Rory, though, right? You emotional?
I don't stop crying. How do you know that?
But
I listened to the podcast.
Yeah, no, I don't stop. I look, I just look at my grandmother and I start crying. I look at my kid and I just start crying. Like, I'm fine, but I just crying.
But you were
Ben's
quite shocked. Yeah, you were quite shocked.
Ben doesn't cry, so he was like this.
Oh, really?
I literally used my
doing that weird swallow, trying to.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a lovely speech here. Can't even look up and address the room, and they didn't realise you were crying your eyes out.
I was literally using my little boy as like a human shield. I was wiping my eyes on him, and after like 20 seconds, I was like, "They're not stopping. I'm just gonna have to man up and admit this now." So I just looked up, and it went on for like a minute.
Bleary-eyed.
It's like you got the ones where you watch a film and it's like, oh, whatever. Yeah. This was like uncontrollable sobbing.
Yeah, there's a huge difference, isn't there, between that like stoic tear and just blubbering.
No, it was so embarrassing. I'm not going to. Nothing wrong with crying. I'm just saying I couldn't stop it. It was like a chemical reaction. The only time I remember crying like that was when our oldest was born. And I didn't do it the same when the second was born because it was much more clinical and you had the C-section. I was more worried. But I just thought I'd admit that open on the internet because it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. Ultimately, it was tears of pride. I was so happy that someone so important to me said such lovely things about me. And my life's mission is to keep you saying them every year.
Yeah. Well, remember that next time you're in Copenhagen.
Never again. I'm never going back.
Alex, it's been fantastic. Really do appreciate you finding the time. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a brilliant episode. I've truly loved it. Thank you to everybody for watching as well. We really, really appreciate you finding the time. And do us a favour just before you go. Please click follow or subscribe wherever you are watching. And we will have an episode coming back for you at 6 o'clock next Thursday. Enjoy.